Hello there, I'm Fancy, and in this tutorial I will show you how to create mobile racing game in Unreal Engine. Behind me you can already see how it looks like. I will show you how to program enemy AI, how to create dynamic checkpoint system that you have to drive through to finish the race, and also how to set up different tracks and road in a way that you want it. Alright, let's get started. We'll create new project. I'm going to use version 4.26, but it doesn't really matter. Any new version will work. Let's create a game, and we are going to use a template, and it should be vehicle or advanced vehicle. I would probably do a vehicle, it will be easier for us. So let's click on next and leave it in blueprint. We are going to make it for mobile. And let's switch it to scalable 2D and 3D, and we don't want any starter content. Let's call it car mobile game. You can call it however you want. So now we have a lot of things already done for us. So if you click on play, you can see that we have here car, control it, blah blah blah. It reacts fairly well, it looks pretty good, etc, etc. But we are going to make it for mobile, so let's click on this little arrow and play in mobile preview. And that will take a bit longer to start, but it will show you how the game will look like on actual phone. And I'm afraid it will also want to, in your case it will probably want to compile shaders right here, so you won't see it that well, but just wait a bit and it will work. It's kind of hard to do that with just one mouse, but you can see that right here I have some control that I can use and control the car. Right now you can already build it to your phone and test how everything works. I will leave control as it is, but if you want you can go into project setting, find here mobile virtual joystick right here, and if you open that you can change here controls to whatever you want. You can see that I have here two elements, which is the left one and right one. You can change here how it will look like, where it is on the screen, etc, etc. So now if you click on your car, it's called just sedan. So if you open that, click on edit sedan, or you can find it here in the browser, and you can see that we have here already some setting, and we will leave most of it as it is. But what you can do is to click left here on vehicle movement and adjust here how your car will react. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a car guy and don't really understand what most of these stuff are, but they are based on how it is with actual cars. So if you understand cars, you should be able to change it to whatever you want. So you can just basically play with these settings and make the car feel just as you need. What I have noticed from the start of these cars is they are too easy to flip, and they are just super easy to string or steer around. So what I would probably do is to increase mass, which mass is basically that car will be heavier. So let's try 3 tons, it will be 3000 kilograms. And now it will be a bit slower, but it should be also easier to manipulate and to play with. Yeah, something like that. That's probably a bit better. I'm not going to change these settings too much. You can play with it and make it feel just as you need. So first thing we will create here is some kind of road that you can ride on or race on, whatever. I prepared a simple model that we will use for that, and I will of course leave you a link in the description so you can download it for free. I will just import it as static mesh, blah blah blah. Where is it? Right here. And it's just one piece of road because we will want to create that road in a way that you can change it right here in the engine. So for that we will need new blueprint. So let's right click, create here blueprint actor, and call it road_bp. And you should be probably here a bit more organized than me, so let's put road bp in blueprints and road just in, we don't have a folder for that, so right click, create a new folder and call it assets, and let's put it right in here. And now in folder blueprints we have here road bp, so let's open that, and first thing we'll add here is a spline. So let's add here spline component. Let's go into construction script and set up here our logic for creating the road. So first of all we will create for loop, just for loop, and then let's take our spline, get its length, so get length, get spline length. From here let's take division whole and remainder, and our divisor let's promote to variable, so promote it, and we will call it distance. And as our return value, which means this integer, we will connect to our last index. And then on our loop body let's add spline, let's add spline component, so spline mesh component, and for that we will set our road. So if you just find here a road and you are using model that I provided, where here you will have it. With your relative transform, we are not gonna do anything. Let's just right click on it and split structure in so it doesn't give us any errors. So from here, what we'll do is set collisions just to be sure. So set collisions enabled right here, and we are going to use set collisions enabled query and physics. That means it will react quite well. Let's open that. We can look at our collisions, simple collisions here, and you can see that it somewhat looks like an actual road. These collisions needs to look like your car can ride on, so this looks pretty good. If you want it to be a bit more detailed, you can of course change these collisions. Click here on auto convex collision, or if you want to have it super detailed, which I'm not sure I would recommend for mobile game, you can set here collision preset and use your collision complexity to use complex collisions as simple. We are not gonna use that, we are just gonna switch it to default, which means it will use these simple collisions. Now it will get a bit more fun. So let's move that all. Let's start by taking your index and multiplying it by a float, and that float will be our distance right here. Get distance and connect it here. Then from your spline, let's put it here, get our spline, and what you want is get location at distance along spline, and then you want to also want direction in the same thing. So get direction at distance along spline right here, and let's connect here our multiplied distance. Leave it to local, that's completely fine. Now what you want is to take that distance and set it to plus float, because that other float will be from here. And now let's just copy that and do that one more time. Again, connect targets to our spline, and this time around let's connect our distance that was set to plus, right? This thing. And now what we will want to do is to take that spline mesh component from here and set start and end. So set start and end, connect it right here. Make sure that your pin is connected, and we'll want to get location at distance along spline, that first one as start position. Then you will want to take direction, multiply it by float, times float, promote it to variable, and that will be our tangent. Let's go with tangent and connect it as our start tangent. And you are gonna do the same thing for end position. So let's move it right here, connect our end position, and again copy this multiplying thing, connect it right here and as our end tangent. Before we put it in the game, let's change our variables. Our distance, let's set to 200 and turn it into public, both of them. And tangent, let's set to 1. And look at that, we already have here our road showing up. Now if you put it in the game, let's rotate it, blah blah blah. You have to click on element of that spline and move it. And look at that, it's creating your wonderful road. Let's put this one a bit lower so you can go on that, something like that. Cool. And if you want to create another part of that spline, let's just Alt and create next steps, etc, etc. You can rotate it, do everything you want with it. You can see that some parts look a bit low resolution. Well, actually not that much here. If you look into lit and unlit, let's search in brush, you can see that it's actually pretty high res, surprisingly so, for mobile game that is at least. If you want to change it, you can of course use your public variables, and let's change distance to 500. Now you can see it's much more Minecraft-like, much more low resolution. If you really look at it, it's much less detailed. Let's do 1000 if you are making it for really low poly stuff, but it's probably not gonna look good for high-end games. So let's stick with those 200. You can go with 100 if you want, but it will be really detailed, something like that. Very cool. All right, let's create here some road. Alright, and you cannot exactly connect it, but you can put them on pretty much the same distance and same location, so it will look like they are connected. So let's create here something like that. Now if you play the game, you can use it, and right here blah blah blah. You can see collisions are pretty proper, everything is cool. You can write on that. I can't. For some reason I can't write here, why is that? There seems to be some collision, so at least you can see me debug it in real time. So under lit, let's look at player collisions, and you can see it's kind of breaking up right here. Maybe if you switch the tangent a bit, that should help. So let's switch it to 3, and look at that. That's much better. If you look back in lit, it looks pretty cool. That's why we turn those variables into public, so you can change them in real time. Now if I try to write it, and let's actually try it in mobile preview. Ideally you would have connected your phone and actually tested in real time on your phone, but let's be real, no one wants to bother with that. You can still use keyboard to test it, but at least you have the same shader preview as you would have on phone. And it looks pretty good. Here it still wasn't that smooth, so you would probably have to edit the turn or adjust tangent, that's up to you. Let's also put here some materials so it actually looks good. So for that I will use bridge, which is up for Megascans, and if you are Unreal Engine user, which you probably are if you are making this tutorial, you have it all for free, so you can download it, sign in, and find here a road. Alright, and let's find here some road. So rough asphalt maybe, that looks like it will look pretty good. But maybe I would try something more like this. Fine American road, look at that. That looks pretty cool. Let's download it. And if you have everything mapped correctly, you should be able to just click export and it will download it right to your project. So let's click on export. Let's see here. Exported successfully. Let's see, I will be the judge of that, and it seems like it is actually exporting successfully. And now little trick that I use is to click on window, content browser, and open here another content browser. Because with that I can still have here this fine road and I don't have to look for it later. So right here, let's go into vehicle BP, assets, road, and you can put here your fine American road. Let's wait a bit, it will compile everything. In the meanwhile, if you want, you can find here a lot of other stuff. For example, in 3D assets, if you want to create some buildings around it, some rocks, you can find here a lot of really cool stuff that you can use for your commercial games and make some racetrack with it or something like that. That could be cool. So that's cool, everything here is fine. The problem is that it's rotated in the wrong way for some reason. So that's probably because I have messed up UVing. I hate UVing, not gonna lie. What should we be able to do is to edit it. So if you open your material, find American road, let's change rotation. So I changed the rotation a bit, and it seems like 0.25 looks pretty good. If you ignore this part, but it's mostly because of that spline. So if I would move that spline, it should fit much better. Something like this to do. I'm not gonna play with it right now, but you got the idea. It's honestly because I made that road mesh in like 1 minute in Blender, so if you want you can play with it and make it much better. Now if we click on play, we should be able to see that. Alright, but now as you can see on the mobile preview, it looks pretty good, well, if you actually manage to drive it well. Sorry to interrupt you, just wanted to let you know every week I make new VR game and I share my progress on Instagram. So if you are interested in that and just wanna see what I work on and stuff and games I'm making, somewhere here is the link. So yep, I'm gonna shut up and let you continue with the tutorial. So yeah, so one thing I have noticed is that the car sometimes flips on its roof and stuff like that. So let's program some logic that will help us deal with that. Or just in case that your car gets stuck and things like that. I will only show you how to do that with keyboard, but you can just add here any button on the screen, it's up to you. So simple way to do that is just to teleport the car. So let's open it and we will find here to do event graph. Right click, let's set it for keyboard and we are going to use keyboard and let's use L. So after you press L, logic will happen. So what we want is to simply teleport our car. But for that we need to get our destination location and rotation. We don't need to worry about rotation because that will be always this default thing. So for our location we have to get actor location. Let's right click here and split structure pin and connect X and Y same as it is, because you don't actually want it to travel anywhere else. You just want it to be basically up and switch its rotation. So for Z, we want to set it to plus, and plus, let's do 500, you can put it higher if you want, and let's test it in the game. That should be actually everything. If I now press L, you can see it resets the game, everything. Seems pretty cool. You can add those pins in even in rotation if you want. In that case, you won't see that jump where it was changing direction. You know what, that will be probably better. So if we click back on our sedan, let's get here, get actor rotation. And we are not going to use all of them because we don't want to rotate Z, I believe. I want to rotate only X and Y. Oh, you actually, I'm so wrong. I'm sorry, I'm so wrong. You actually don't want to connect X and Y, and you want to connect only Z. That should be fine. Alright, let's try to press L. Seems cool. Let's rotate some, come on. Let's write somewhere else. L. Seems cool. Yeah, Jesus, that was such a rookie mistake. My bad, really my bad. Alright, now let's make it a bit interesting and add here some other cars that you can race with. So, we'll create a new blueprint. So let's go back into Vehicle BP, Blueprints. Right click here, and let's call it Actor. Let it be Actor and call it Car AI underscore BP. And first thing we'll add here is of course our skeletal mesh of our car. By the way, I should probably say I'm not going to show you in this tutorial how to change vehicles in Unreal if you want to add here your custom vehicle, because it's really complicated in Unreal, and it would make this tutorial much longer than it needs to be. So I will probably make a separate video how you can import your own vehicles and make them work with Unreal vehicle system. So let me know in comments if you are interested in video like that. So right now we have here just this car. So what we want here is to set it up so it will follow some road, some spline. So let's create here a timeline. So timeline, and let's call it car mover. Alright, cool. And let's actually do here a custom event. So add custom event and call it drive. If you double click on your timeline, let's create here a float. Let's call it float alpha, and we will create here a few keys. So first key will be on time 0 and 0. Oh, come on. And the other will be on, let's do it 5 and value 1. If you unzoom it, you can select both of these keys, right click and switch it to auto, so it will be a bit smoother. Now with that, let's start by promoting alpha to variable. And after that, let's set actor location and rotation. Alright, and we will want to be able to adjust how fast it is traveling. So let's put here our card mover from components, get it, and set play rate. And at set play rate, let's set to float divided by float. And it should be 1 divided by some variable that we can call speed. And let's make it public so we can adjust it. Alright, now let's connect it to and play. Alright, but now we of course need to change our location and rotation. Quickly before that, we will have to create another blueprint, and there are two options what you can do right now. We will again have to use splines. So if you want, you can use spline from this road, but that means your car will be always in the middle and it will be always following the same road, which you probably don't want to do. So what I would do is to create here a new blueprint. Actor class, let's call it AI road underscore BP. Let's open that and add here spline component. So like this you can manually adjust how your car will travel, and you can also create, for example, 3 of them, and that car will on the start always choose which one it will use. Back in the car AI BP, let's add here new variable, and we will add here a reference to that. So let's put here spline ref. And as our variable type, let's put here, we have to put here name of that blueprint we just created. So let's find here road AI BP object reference. Wonderful. And let's just set it to public as well for us. For now it will be easier. Alright, take here your spline reference and get from here spline. So get spline comp. And if you scroll completely down, we should have here get spline. So let's get it. And what you want here is get location at the distance along spline and a rotation at the distance. So get rotation at the distance along spline, and let's connect these two things right here and make sure that you switch it to world. Well, now we also need to set up the distance, so for that we will again use our spline. Let's move it back. Let's put here get spline length and then lerp. A will stay as 0 and B will be connected to our get spline length. Now you can connect it to both of the distances. As our alpha, surprisingly enough, we will set alpha. Alright, now let's test it all in the game. So let's put our car AI BP somewhere in the game. It doesn't matter because on start it will be put on the start of that road. So then let's take AI road and let's just try to create it here to see how it will all work. Let's move it, blah blah blah. And I almost forgot, we also need to kind of start that custom event. And first of all, edit car AI BP, we have to call this drive. So on event begin play, let's put here short delay, 1 second let's say, and after that let's start with drive. Alright, and our speed let's leave to 1, that seems to be cool, and as our spline ref, let's click on this. And as I said right here, you can set up that you will create here 4 or 5 different of these splines, always somewhere differently on this track, and you can on the start just randomly choose one of them or something like that. Let's click on simulate and see, and look at that, it seems to work pretty damn well. Let's speed it up, so set it to 10, or it will slow it down or speed it up? Oh, that slows it down. Okay, that's smart for you. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Let's try 0.5. That should be twice as fast as before. Cool. So now let's put that guy on the road. So I will just create this spline on the same distance as it is here, approximately. What is probably a smart thing to do is to look here in perspective and switch it to top and just create it right here. But it's up to you. But if you are doing it from top, make sure that you also then switch it to sides or perspective and match also this height. Alright, that looks pretty cool. So now let's set a distance here. And again, I have to set my spline ref because I deleted it before. And let's try set a speed to 2 and click on play, and look at that. We've got AI, enemy AI, and right there it's pretty much flying, but that doesn't matter, that's not a problem. This is not an actual AI, this is just following a spline, but I think that it can look pretty good for a racing game. Also, arguably, if you are making a competitive racing game, this could be a bit better because player can learn how that AI will react and remember that and know how to overplay him, but that's based on your design of your game, of course. And now you can see that it stopped after 1 lap. So what you can do with that is on car AI BP, after it stops, which means it's finished right here, if you want to do it again, you can simply put here short delay. Let's do again 1 second and then just simply call that event again. That's why we created it as custom event. So let's just put here drive again. And I will speed it up for now and see how it will go. 0.5, we can play and show me what you got, mate. Right, it will wait and oh, come on. Oh, of course, that's because I'm an idiot. That happens. The problem is that I switch it to play, and the problem with timeline is if you switch it to play, it will play only once and then it will never play again. So you have to just simply from this play rate switch it to play from the start. That should help. So click on play. Wait for it, and here we go again. Great. By the way, if you don't want to have here this little jump, you just have to align these two ends of spline. And for the last thing, let's create here some checkpoint system that will determine who actually won the race. So back in blueprints, vehicle BP, blueprints, right click, and let's create here new actor. Let's call it checkpoints _ BP, open that. And let's just create here something that will show us that that is a checkpoint. So let's do cube, something like that, and we will just adjust that material. So you know what, I will quickly create a new one. So geometry, right click, material, let's call it transparent, open that, and let's just create a constant and another triple constant. So constant free vector. That color, let's switch to something reddish, connect it as base color, and that whole material will actually change to translucent, or you can do mask, but that doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea for mobile game. I will just use it now to demonstrate it, but probably stay away from translucent materials for mobiles. You are better off if you put there some model that shows like a finishing line or anything like that. And let's switch that first constant to 0.25 and connect it to opacity. Close that, it will probably compile shaders, that's fine, because we will go back into vehicle BP, blueprints, and our checkpoint. Let's put here your new material, so transparent, and now if you put it in the game, it looks like something you should write through. Let's probably make it a bit thinner, so on y-axis let's scale it down, yep, something like that. For all that logic, let's create here a collision, so box collision, put it right here, and let's scroll down, and on begin overlap let's cast to our vehicle, which I'm not sure how it is called. It's sedan, of course, it was on the start. So cast to sedan and connect it to other actor. Now let's create some custom event in our sedan that we can adjust it. Let's put here a text that will show us how many checkpoints you have to go through. So let's put a text, put it up here and rotate it 180 degrees. I'll make it probably a bit bigger. Let's do like 35 and move it here. Click on play and test it. Yep, text seems to be fine. Everything is wonderful. In sedan, back to event graph, and let's right click here. And what we want to do is to first of all create a new variable. So let's call it checkpoints remaining and switch it to integer. And on construction script, what we will do is to get all actors of class, and that will be of course our checkpoints. Let's take its length and set it as our checkpoints remaining. So on the construction script of that car, it will see how many checkpoints you have in the game and set it to this number. And then I also want to set their text. So let's take a text and set text. Connect our checkpoints. Now in event graph, new custom event. Let's call it set score, even though we don't have a score, but that doesn't really matter. And let's set it right here, get checkpoints, set it to -1 and set our score. So set score to our new score, that's -1. Then we will do branch and check if it's less than 0. So take this, get checkpoints remaining, and make sure that it's less or equal to 0. So which means this needs to be less or equal to 0, and if that's true, and right now I will just put here something like you win or anything like that. So let's put here just for loop 0 to 9 and print string you win, and let's make it green. And back in our checkpoint, let's call that function set score and then destroy actor. Alright, so just to test it, right now the number should be 0, and that number is 0. That's great, that means it works. So now let's put here a few of them. And one more thing I forgot to set here, that each time after you set that score in our custom event set score, you want to set the text. So we have that already in construction script, so let's just take it from here and paste it. Paste it in here. Now you want to take checkpoints from here and connect it. Alright, make sure that you compile, and let's see. Alright, we have 3, that means we have 3 checkpoints. If I drive through one, it takes it away, and if I drive through the last one, it should end the game. So let's see. Congrats, you won. Congratulations guys, you got your own driving racing game. You can adjust speed of your enemy, etc, etc. It's more of a prototype that you can play with and do some funny stuff with that, but hey, I hope that it was helpful for you. That's everything for this tutorial. I hope that you learned something. If you are interested in stuff that I do in Unreal Engine and games I make, somewhere here is my Instagram, and if you want project files for this tutorial, link in the description for my Patreon where you can get it for any tier. And that's about it. Sir Fancy out.